Hello, and thanks for joining me. So a guy came to my door a few months ago. He said, "Are you David John Wellman?" I said, "Yep." He said, "My name is Fred, and I'm with the Round Earth Conspiracy." I said, "The what?" He said, "The Round Earth Conspiracy. We're the organization responsible for deceiving the vast majority of humanity into believing the Earth is round, when in fact, the Earth is flat." I looked at Fred. He was a middle-aged guy with your standard man in black attire, sunglasses, dark blazer. I said, "You're joking, right?" He said, "No." I said, "No, really, you're joking, right?" He said, "Absolutely not. The Earth is flat. There is in fact a conspiracy to deceive most people into thinking that it's round, and I'm a part of it." I said, "I'm absolutely not going to stand here and listen to this." He said, "I didn't think you would." Then he snapped his fingers, and the next thing I knew, we were both standing inside this strange glass chamber high up in the air. And I mean really high up, so high up in fact that it wasn't in the air, but in vacuum, above the atmosphere. Directly below me, I could see the entire map of the Earth, almost exactly as the flat earthers had pictured it, with the North Pole at the center and a gargantuan wall of ice ringing the circumference. Above me, I saw that the chamber was anchored to some kind of ceiling made of glass or crystal, and around me, I saw the stars as they really were, flat discs of brilliance aimed directly down at the Earth, as well as several complicated gizmos attached to more colorful discs, which I realized were the planets. The sun was a brilliant ball hovering over the surface of the Earth, near the edge of the disk. This was in December, so it was summer in the southern hemisphere, which I now saw was the outer portion of the disk, from about half the radius outward, and the sun's light was bending into a weird donut shape so that the entire rim of the disk was lit, but the center was in complete darkness. Around me, I saw that a number of people, hundreds of people in fact, were being given a similar treatment by individuals dressed the same as Fred. I recognized scientists, politicians, celebrities, many people renowned for their skeptical approach to life. To my left, I heard a familiar geometric voice say,
"Hey, David! Oh, I can see my house from here. And I can see the location which on a round Earth would be the antipode of my house from here." Well, there's a sentence I never thought I'd say. What a strange morning.
"Well, you said it," I said. Then I said to Fred, "How did all this get here? Did you build it yourself?" He said, "Well, not me, but the conspiracy did, yeah." I said, "And you're showing all these people the flat Earth at the same time?" He said, "Oh, we have this operation going all the time. We're constantly letting people in on the conspiracy. We have to, otherwise people like you would figure enough out for yourself before we got to you." I pointed to the planets. "You have those things on complicated gizmos," I said. He said we had to, otherwise they would have seen that the planets follow simple circles around the Earth, and the game would have been up. We have to precisely duplicate the apparent motions of the planets as they would be seen from the Earth if the heliocentric model was correct. Otherwise, the people wouldn't be deceived. I said, "How could you possibly build all this?" He said, "Well, let me ask you something. How do you suppose we have gravity if the Earth is flat?" I said, "Well, I can think of 3 ways to create gravity on a flat Earth. 1, put the Earth inside a rotating apparatus so it spins around at a high velocity, creating centrifugal gravity. However, any such apparatus would be very obvious from the surface of the Earth, and we've never seen one. Plus, gravity would be slightly angled as you approach the circumference of the Earth, since you'd be farther away from the center of spin and at a tangent to it, so as you go south, everything would be slightly downhill, and we'd be able to detect that, so that can't be it. The second way is to accelerate the Earth continuously at a rate of 1g, but you would have to have been accelerating for the entire history of the Earth, which is, I'm guessing, a few thousand years at least?" He nodded, and I went on. "That means, since we've established by ground-based experiments that time dilation really is a thing, we would be going so fast by now that the universe would long since have either decayed into a state of heat death or collapsed into a big crunch. I suppose you could get out of that by accelerating in a circle like a powered orbit, but there's still the issue of mass exhaust. The longer you want to accelerate something 1g, the more your required fuel mass increases at an exponential rate, so in order to accelerate for several thousand years, your starting mass would probably outweigh the entire universe. The third way I can think of is just sheer mass. But if the Earth is a disk, then the center of its mass would be underneath the North Pole, which means once again, gravity would be angled as you moved away from the center, only toward the north this time. And much more sharply, to the point where if you're at the circumference, it would be like standing on a vertical cliff. So honestly, I can't think of how you might get gravity on a flat Earth." He said to me, "There's a 4th way you haven't considered." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Magic." I said, "Magic?" He said, "Magic." I said, "There's no such thing as magic." He said, "Remember a short time ago when I snapped my fingers and we were suddenly here? How do you think that happened?" I said, "Technology?" He said, "Magic is indistinguishable from any sufficiently advanced technology." I said, "Oh, I see what you did there. Very clever. So, gravity is created by magic?" He said, "Yep." I said, was all this built by magic? The fake stars and the fake planets and the fake sun? This was all done with magic? He said, yeah. I said, and the way the sun's light bends around the circumference of the disk in such a way as to light up the areas that would be lit up right now in the southern hemisphere if the Earth was round, that's magic too? He said, yeah, we had to do it that way, otherwise the people wouldn't be deceived. I said, and the way the Earth's shadow across the face of the moon during a lunar eclipse is always a circle, no matter from what angle you view it, that's magic too? He said, yep. Again, we had to do it that way, otherwise people wouldn't be deceived. I said, and the way the International Space Station always appears in the place you expect given orbital calculations based on a round Earth, that's magic too? He said, don't be absurd, that's not magic at all. That's a fleet of high-altitude, high-velocity drones we have in service. At least one of them is always in flight, always following the path that the ISS would follow if the Earth was round. I said, that's impressive, but each drone, it seems, would have to be the size, shape, and altitude of the station in order for the space station to present the aspect to the observer that we would expect. How do you manage that with the drones? He said, magic, of course. I said, where does magic come from? Is it God? He said, no, actually, you were right, there is no God. I said, then how? He said, wizards. I said, wizards? He said, wizards. I said, like in Harry Potter? He said, no, not like in Harry Potter. These wizards are a race of magical beings from an alternate dimension. They're the ones who created the flat Earth. They also created all the apparatus to deceive most of humanity into thinking the world is round, including founding the conspiracy. I said, tell me about these wizards. Where do they come from? He said, oh, they came from a round Earth-like planet. I said, I'm surprised that you're admitting to me that there's so much magic involved. He said, why are you surprised? I said, because when flat earthers on the internet try to make their case, they try to avoid magic as much as possible, instead appealing to real or invented natural phenomena. Like, you know how you can't always see the sun or any part of the earth more than a few miles away even though you're standing on a plane? They say that's because the atmosphere bends light in just the right way. He said, well, those guys on the internet haven't thought it through. Yes, there's magic involved. There has to be magic involved. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work. And if you try to prove that the Earth is flat, sooner or later you're going to run across this problem, whether it's the gravity thing, or the light bending thing, or the International Space Station thing, or the fact that two people on separate continents can both be looking away from the center, and therefore in opposite directions, but still both be looking at the Southern Cross in the sky. Sooner or later you have to invoke magic in order to make it work. And if you have to invoke magic for anything, then there's really no reason not to invoke it for everything. Because the damage is done, so to speak. There's no possibility of there being a scientific justification for your belief. But we live in an age where everyone at least tries to be rational, or puts on the appearance of being rational, and so even people who do believe in magic are loath to invoke it more than they feel they have to, which is a shame because, as you can see, magic is everywhere. I see that, I said, but why are you trying to deceive people into believing that magic is nowhere? Why the conspiracy? Why do you want to keep the truth of the flat earth hidden from humanity? So we can gain power, he said. I said, what kind of power? He said, well, for one thing, the power to make people vote the way we want them to vote. I said, how do you want them to vote? He said, we want people to vote Democratic, Republican, Libertarian, Constitution, Green, Alliance, Working Families, Reform, Socialist, Communist, Prohibition, Connecticut for Lieberman, and he just kept naming political parties. I said, wow, is there any political party that isn't under your control? He said, Kevin hates the government. I said, what? He said, Kevin hates the government. It's the name of a political party in Montana formed by a guy named Kevin. He hates the government, and he called his party Kevin Hates the Government. Not very imaginative, I said. No, he said, but he went through the paperwork and he got the signatures, and it is a party, and it's not under our control. I said, does Kevin know the earth is flat? No, he said, he thinks the earth is round and we want to keep it that way. In fact, this whole thing is for Kevin's benefit. I said, really? He said, the benefit of a few hundred others. I said, a few hundred? That few people? He said, well, most of humanity is either part of the conspiracy already or they're harmless to us. They're the sheep who read Facebook and consume lots of energy drinks and believe in things like molecules and North Dakota. It's the rest of the world we had to worry about. People like Kevin. There was a cough from behind us.
Actually, Kevin figured it out yesterday. He watched the Flat Earther YouTube videos, and he's one of them now.
Ah, crap, said Fred. I turned around, and my wife was standing behind us, wearing a dark blazer and sunglasses just like Fred and the other tour guides. I said, honey, you're part of the conspiracy too? She said,
yeah, they recruited me 6 years ago. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before, but you just weren't ready yet.
I said, what do you mean? Fred said, let's face it, she's always been smarter than you. I said, yeah, that's true. So what are you going to do about Kevin? My wife said,
well, he still reads Facebook and consumes lots of energy drinks, so we're still mostly okay.
Thank the wizards, said Fred. After a bit more sightseeing, Fred snapped his fingers again and we were back at the front door of my house. Fred said, "So how would you like to join us?" I said, "What did you have in mind?" "Ooh, do you need someone down at the Kennedy Space Center to help you fake all the rocket launches?" He said, "No, we've got plenty of those. What we need is someone like you to make a video describing everything that just happened to you." I said, "Wait, you want me to blow the whistle?" He said, "Yeah, everyone will think it's a satire. In fact, you can call it a flat earth satire, and it will divert suspicion away from the real conspiracy. Because there's nothing like telling the truth to divert suspicion." To tell the truth, I was disappointed that they didn't want me for the rocket launches. I said, "I'm sorry, but now that I know the earth is flat, I think I have to tell the world for real." Fred named a dollar figure. I said, "It's not a matter of money, it's a matter of integrity. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror if I spent my life helping to deceive all of humanity." Fred named another dollar figure. I said, "Sold!" "By the way," I said as he was leaving, "where do you get all the money to pay all the conspirators? And how do you keep them silent so that not a single one has ever blown the whistle for thousands of years?" He said, "How do you think?" I said, "Magic?" And he smiled and said, "David, welcome to the Round Earth Conspiracy." If you enjoyed this video and want to help my channel grow, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Be sure to hit the bell to be notified when a new video comes out. And if you would like to join the Round Earth Conspiracy, don't try to find us. We'll find you. But you can always leave a comment below. Special thanks to the SkepTick for once again lending his Circly appendage. You can check out his channel in the description. And extra special thanks to Mrs. DJW for lending her voice as well. And thanks to you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. I'm David John Wellman, and the rest is up to you.